I have not dug a single garden bed in over 3 years, and last summer I harvested more fresh fruit and vegetables than I ever did when I was breaking my back with a shovel. Does that sound impossible to you? What if I told you that the secret to an infinite harvest does not require massive plots of land, heavy tilling, or exhausting daily maintenance? Today, we are diving into the ultimate trick for lazy gardeners. We are going to explore 17 incredible perennial crops that absolutely thrive in pots and containers. These are plants you put in the soil just one single time, and they reward you with food year after year with almost zero effort. I am going to reveal a highly debated secret about root restriction that contradicts everything traditional farmers have told you. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to turn your patio or driveway into a high-yield, self-sustaining orchard. Are you ready to stop working for your garden and make your garden work for you? Let us get started. Before we get to our amazing plant list, we need to understand exactly why growing perennials in pots is the ultimate hack for the lazy gardener. A perennial is simply a plant that lives for many years, surviving the winter and bouncing back every spring. When we plant these long-living crops in containers, we completely eliminate the three hardest jobs in gardening. We eliminate weeding, we eliminate digging, and we eliminate soil diseases. But the real magic happens beneath the surface. The root system of a potted perennial acts just like a rechargeable battery. In a traditional open garden bed, a plant wastes massive amounts of energy sending roots deep and wide to search for nutrients. In a container, the roots are confined. Once they fill that space, the plant shifts all of its biological energy upward. Instead of building an underground empire, it focuses entirely on producing flowers, leaves, and heavy fruit. We are essentially tricking the plant into becoming a hyper-efficient food factory. Now, let us look at the absolute best crops to put in your pots. Let us begin with the absolute foundation of our lazy gardening method. If you want to plant once and harvest for years, you cannot use ordinary backyard dirt in your pots. That is a massive mistake that will ruin your harvest. Ordinary ground soil turns into heavy concrete inside a container. Instead, we are creating what I call the lazy loam. Think of this soil mixture as a luxury hotel mattress for your plant roots. It needs to be incredibly airy, but hold on to moisture just enough so you do not have to water every single day. We use 1/3 high-quality potting soil, 1/3 compost for that slow-release energy, and 1/3 perlite to guarantee drainage. The compost acts like a slow-dripping nutrient supply for your plants. You will not need to remember complicated feeding schedules. The perlite acts like millions of tiny air pockets, ensuring the roots can breathe even after heavy rain. Many people believe that plants in pots need constant artificial chemical fertilizers to survive. That is a myth created by fertilizer companies. With this specific 3-part mixture, your potted fruit trees and shrubs will feed themselves naturally for an entire season. You literally just mix it once, fill your pot, and let the soil biology do the hard work for you. Now let us talk about our first incredible perennial crop, the dwarf fig tree. If you love sweet, fresh fruit but hate complicated pruning, the fig is your absolute best friend. There is a very common myth among gardeners that all fruit trees must have unlimited space to grow big and strong. With figs, the exact opposite is true. Figs actually love having their roots restricted. When you put a fig tree in a large pot, the roots hit the edge of the container and send a chemical signal to the rest of the tree. This signal tells the tree to stop growing green leaves and start producing fruit immediately. Think of it like a biological switch. Instead of wasting energy building a massive wooden structure, the tree channels all its power into making those delicious, sugary figs. It is the ultimate lazy hack. You get a compact, manageable tree that is absolutely loaded with fruit. For the best results, place your potted fig in the sunniest spot on your patio. You do not need to worry about complex winter pruning either. Just snip off any dead branches in the early spring, and that is it. This simple container trick alone will save you hours of orchard maintenance while giving you gourmet fruit right outside your back door. Next on our list is the absolute superstar of the potted garden, the blueberry bush. Many gardeners completely give up on growing blueberries because they plant them in their regular garden beds and watch them slowly die. The secret here is that blueberries require highly acidic soil to survive. Trying to change the acid level of your entire backyard is expensive, exhausting, and rarely works long-term. But when you grow blueberries in a pot, you have total control over the environment. You are creating a custom microclimate. Simply fill your container with a mix of peat moss and pine bark. This creates the exact acidic environment these bushes crave. Think of it like brewing a perfect cup of custom coffee. Once you set up that acidic soil in a pot, the blueberry bush will thrive for decades with almost no intervention. You do not even need to prune them for the first 3 years. Just let them grow and establish their branches. As a bonus, the white spring flowers are beautiful, and the leaves turn a stunning bright red in the autumn. By keeping them in pots, you bypass all the soil struggles and jump straight to harvesting handfuls of antioxidant-rich berries every single summer. Moving on to our third amazing plant, we have rhubarb. Rhubarb is the ultimate perennial pie maker, and yes, it grows beautifully in a large container. There is a persistent myth that rhubarb needs a massive, deep trench in the garden to produce well. The truth is that a half whiskey barrel, or a large 20-gallon pot, is more than enough space for a massive rhubarb crown. Rhubarb is incredibly tough. It is the garden equivalent of a solar panel. Those giant green leaves soak up the sun and store all that energy in the thick red stalks. Because you are growing it in a pot, you never have to worry about weeds choking out your harvest. The huge leaves naturally shade the soil in the container, which means the moisture stays locked in, completely reducing your need to water. Harvesting is the easiest part of all. You do not cut rhubarb. You simply grab a stalk near the base and give it a firm twist and pull. It pops right off. This plant will faithfully return every single spring for up to 20 years. Just remember to never eat the leaves as they are toxic. Stick to making delicious jams and pies with those beautiful red stalks that took you absolutely zero effort to grow. Our fourth essential plant is the woody herb that acts like an indestructible shrub, rosemary. Rosemary is a Mediterranean plant, which means it thrives on pure neglect. If you are the type of gardener who forgets to water your plants, rosemary is going to be your favorite crop. There is a misconception that all herbs need rich, moist soil to be flavorful. But rosemary actually develops stronger essential oils and better flavor when it is grown in poor soil with very little water. Think of rosemary as the camel of your container garden. It stores what it needs and powers through the heat. Planting it in a pot is crucial because it requires excellent drainage. If its roots sit in soggy garden soil, it will rot and die quickly. In a container, the water drains away perfectly. You can leave this pot baking in the hot summer sun, and it will only grow stronger. Whenever you need to season a roasted chicken or some potatoes, you simply walk outside and snap off a sprig. It remains green all year round in mild climates, providing constant fresh flavor. It is a plant you buy once, water rarely, and harvest constantly. Let us talk about plant number 5, the incredible Meyer lemon tree. Many people believe that growing citrus is only possible if you live in a tropical paradise. That is a complete myth. The Meyer lemon is actually a dwarf citrus variety that naturally wants to stay small, making it the absolute perfect candidate for container gardening. This tree is a cross between a traditional lemon and a sweet mandarin orange, giving the fruit an unbelievable flavor. By keeping it in a pot, you gain the superpower of mobility. During the warm summer months, your lemon tree can sit on the patio, soaking up the sun and producing incredibly fragrant white blossoms. When the cold winter weather approaches, you simply roll the pot inside near a bright sunny window. You do not need to build complex greenhouses or wrap your outdoor trees in plastic. The pot does all the heavy lifting for you. The Meyer lemon will happily produce fruit while sitting right inside your living room. It is like having a tiny mobile sunshine factory that gives you fresh, organic lemons for cooking and drinks, completely bypassing the limitations of your local climate. Plant number 6 is going to surprise a lot of traditional gardeners. We are talking about asparagus. Yes, you can absolutely grow asparagus in containers. Most gardening books will tell you that asparagus requires a permanent, heavily trenched bed in the ground because the plants live for 20 years. While they do live a long time, the roots of the asparagus plant actually prefer to spread out horizontally rather than digging deep straight down. This means a wide, shallow container is the perfect home for them. Think of the asparagus root crown like a giant underground spider. As long as it has room to stretch its legs sideways, it is perfectly happy. By growing asparagus in a pot, you completely eliminate the hardest part of growing this crop, which is weeding. Asparagus absolutely hates competing with weeds for nutrients. In a container, you control the soil completely. There are no weed seeds blowing in to ruin your crop. You plant the crowns once, let them establish ferns for the first 2 years, and then you get a reliable, guaranteed harvest of expensive gourmet asparagus spears every single spring for the next 2 decades, all without ever picking up a hoe. Next up is plant number 7, the ultimate trailing ground cover and culinary hero, thyme. Thyme is often thought of as just a tiny garnish you buy in a plastic box at the grocery store. But in the container garden, it is an absolute powerhouse. Thyme is a perennial woody herb that loves to cascade over the edges of pots. You can actually plant thyme at the base of your dwarf fruit trees right in the same container. It acts as a living mulch. Instead of buying expensive wood chips to cover the bare soil, you use thyme. Its dense foliage blocks the sun from hitting the soil directly, which drastically reduces water evaporation. This means You water your fruit trees half as often. It is a brilliant, lazy strategy. Furthermore, thyme releases strong aromatic oils that naturally repel pests. It confuses insects that might otherwise attack your fruit. It requires zero fertilizer, zero coddling, and survives freezing temperatures with ease. Whenever you make soups, stews, or roasted vegetables, you just give the pot a little haircut. It grows back thicker and stronger every single time you cut it. Moving to plant number 8, we have dwarf raspberries. Traditional raspberries are notorious for taking over entire gardens. They send underground runners everywhere and require complicated wire trellises to keep them from falling over into a thorny mess. This stops many lazy gardeners from ever trying to grow them. The solution is the new bush varieties of dwarf raspberries perfectly bred for containers. These plants are compact and require absolutely no support structures. Think of them as well-behaved guests in your garden. The container naturally stops the underground runners from spreading into your lawn. You get all the sweet summer berry production without any of the wild, invasive behavior. Pruning them is also incredibly simple. You do not need to memorize complex structural cuts. In the late winter, you simply look at the bush. Any branch that is brown and dead gets cut off at the soil line. Any branch that is green stays. That is the entire pruning process. You can easily harvest bowl after bowl of fresh raspberries right from your balcony without ever fighting a tangle of thorny vines. Plant number 9 is the unsung hero of the lazy garden, chives. Chives are a perennial onion substitute that quite literally never dies. Once you plant a small pot of chives, you will have a constant supply of mild, delicious onion flavor for the rest of your life. There is a huge misconception that you have to pull up onions and replant them every single year. With chives, you leave the roots entirely alone. You simply take a pair of scissors and cut the green grass like shoots right down to the base. Within a week, they have completely regrown. They are the hydra of the container garden. Cut off one head and another takes its place. Chives also produce beautiful purple flowers in the spring that are entirely edible. You can toss them into salads for a spicy kick. Even better, those flowers attract hundreds of beneficial pollinators to your patio, which will help pollinate your potted fruit trees. If the pot ever gets too crowded, you just pull the root ball out, chop it in half with a shovel, and put it into 2 pots. It is the easiest plant propagation in the world. Let us explore plant number 10, ever-bearing strawberries. Growing strawberries in traditional ground beds is an open invitation for slugs, bugs, and rot. When the berries touch the wet soil, they ruin instantly. But when you plant ever-bearing strawberries in a tall container or a hanging basket, something magical happens. The plants send out runners that cascade gracefully over the edges of the pot. This creates a stunning waterfall of green leaves and bright red fruit. Because the berries are hanging in the air, they never touch the wet soil. You instantly eliminate 90% of the rot and pest problems. There is a myth that strawberries only give you one big harvest in June. By choosing ever-bearing varieties, you are guaranteeing a steady trickle of fresh fruit from early summer all the way until the first frost of autumn. They do not need deep soil, so shallow pots work perfectly. You just keep them watered, pick the red berries as they ripen, and let the plant do the rest. It is a high-yield dessert factory that requires absolutely no bending over to harvest. Plant number 11 is a crop that you actually must keep in a pot, otherwise it will destroy your entire garden. I am talking about mint. Mint is a spectacular culinary herb. It is perfect for teas, cocktails, and fresh salads. But there is a deadly myth that mint makes a good companion plant in an open garden bed. That is a terrible lie. Mint is an aggressive invader. It is the mafia boss of the herb world. If you plant it in the ground, it will send out aggressive underground runners and choke out every single vegetable you own. The only safe way to grow mint is in solitary confinement, which means a sturdy container on a hard surface. By putting mint in a pot, you harness all of its incredible vigor without any of the risk. It will fill the container incredibly fast, providing you with an endless supply of fresh leaves. It is completely immune to most pests because its strong oils deter insects naturally. You can chop it down to the soil level when it gets messy, and it will bounce back thicker than ever in just a few weeks. It is the perfect lazy plant, as long as it stays in its plastic prison. Our 12th plant brings us back to delicious berries with thornless dwarf blackberries. Blackberries are an incredible superfood, but wild varieties are a nightmare to harvest. You usually end up with your arms covered in painful scratches. The modern lazy gardener uses dwarf patio varieties that are completely thornless. This completely changes the game. You can place a large pot of these blackberries right next to your seating area, and you never have to worry about getting snagged by thorns. The myth here is that blackberries need a huge trellis to climb. These patio varieties grow in a neat, compact mound. They are essentially self-supporting. Just like the dwarf raspberries, the container restricts their wild spreading habits. You give them a sunny spot and some regular water, and they will load up with massive, juicy black fruits by midsummer. The branches are smooth and safe for children to harvest from. When the season is over, you just trim back the canes that produced fruit, leaving the new green growth for next year. It is a completely painless way to grow an expensive grocery store luxury right at home. Moving on to plant number 13, we have the incredibly resilient culinary sage. Sage is often mistakenly treated as a delicate seasonal herb, but it is actually a tough, woody, perennial shrub. The older it gets, the stronger and more beautiful it becomes. Sage is native to rocky, dry environments, making it a perfect candidate for container life. It absolutely hates having wet feet. When you plant it in a pot with our lazy loam mixture, the water drains away perfectly, mimicking its natural habitat. The thick, fuzzy, silver-green leaves are packed with intense flavor, perfect for roasting meats and making rich winter sauces. The real secret of growing sage is its cold tolerance. While basil and cilantro die at the first sign of a chilly breeze, sage can actually survive under a blanket of snow in many climates. It is like the wise old man of the patio garden. It just sits there, quietly surviving everything nature throws at it. You never have to replant it. You just step outside, brush the snow off the leaves in December, and harvest fresh herbs for your holiday cooking. Plant number 14 is a massive architectural wonder that produces gourmet food. We are talking about artichokes. Most people assume artichokes only grow in massive agricultural fields in California. That is completely false. An artichoke is essentially a giant perennial thistle, and it grows magnificently in a large half-barrel container. This plant is a total showstopper. It produces enormous, silver-jagged leaves that look like they belong to a dinosaur. In the center of this massive foliage, it shoots up heavy stalks, topped with the artichoke globes. If you do not harvest the globe to eat, it bursts into an enormous glowing purple flower that bees absolutely go crazy for. By growing it in a container, you keep it safe from gophers and moles that love to eat the roots in traditional gardens. It is a heavy feeder, so applying a layer of fresh compost to the top of the pot every spring is all the maintenance it requires. It is the perfect combination of stunning patio landscaping and high-end edible gardening, requiring almost zero physical effort once the heavy pot is in place. Let us look at plant number 15, the aggressively spreading Mediterranean survivor, oregano. Oregano is another plant that will carpet your entire yard if you let it, but in a pot, it becomes a tight, beautiful mound of concentrated flavor. There is a common myth that harvesting herbs leaf by leaf is the correct way to do it. That is incredibly tedious and exactly what lazy gardeners want to avoid. The true secret to oregano is the shear haircut method. When the plant gets tall and starts to look a bit messy, you take a pair of large shears and chop the entire plant down, leaving only 2 inches of growth above the soil. It looks brutal, like a terrible haircut, but the plant absolutely loves it. You take all those clippings, dry them in your kitchen, and you have enough oregano to last a year. Within 3 weeks, the pot will be overflowing with fresh, bright green growth again. Oregano thrives on poor soil and irregular watering. It is a rugged survivor that asks for nothing and gives you intense, spicy, authentic Italian flavor year after year without fail. Plant number 16 brings exotic beauty and sweet fruit to your lazy patio, the dwarf pomegranate. Pomegranates are ancient fruits, but standard trees can grow 20 feet tall and take years to produce. The dwarf container variety completely rewrites the rules. These amazing little shrubs rarely grow taller than 3 feet, but they are absolutely covered in stunning bright orange trumpet-shaped flowers all summer long. Following the flowers, they produce adorable bright red miniature pomegranate fruits. It is literally like growing rubies in a pot. The myth is that they are difficult to force into fruiting. The reality is that they love being completely root-bound. The tighter the pot, the more they panic and produce fruit. They are incredibly heat-tolerant. When the summer sun is scorching your other plants, the dwarf pomegranate is having the time of its life. During the winter, they drop their leaves and go completely dormant, meaning you can store the pot in a dark, unheated garage until spring. It is a zero-maintenance exotic fruit tree that demands almost no attention. Our 17th and final plant is one you must respect and contain. I am talking about horseradish. Horseradish produces a spicy, pungent root that makes the most incredible fresh sauces. But there is a terrifying truth about horseradish. If you plant even a tiny piece of the root in your regular garden bed, it will spread like wildfire and you will never, ever get rid of it. You are basically trapping a genie in a bottle by putting it in a large, deep container. A 5-gallon bucket with holes drilled in the bottom is perfect. The container forces the roots to grow straight down into thick, harvestable chunks instead of spreading out thin and wide. When autumn comes, the lazy harvest method is simple. You just tip the bucket over onto a tarp. The entire root system slides out cleanly. You take the biggest roots for your kitchen, save one small piece of root, put the dirt back in the bucket, and bury that one small piece. That is it. You have just replanted your crop for next year in less than 5 minutes, with no digging required. Now that you have your 17 perennial container crops, we need to talk about the lazy watering trick. Watering pots every day is exhausting, but there is a simple method to cut your watering in half. The biggest myth in container gardening is that bare soil looks clean and healthy. In reality, bare soil is a disaster. When the sun hits bare potting soil, the water evaporates immediately. It is like boiling a pot of water without a lid. The secret is to heavily mulch the top of every single container. You can use wood chips, straw, or even dried leaves. Apply a thick 2-inch layer right over the top of the soil. This acts like a thermal blanket and a physical lid. It stops the sun from baking the moisture out of the dirt. Combine this mulch layer with a deep watering technique. Instead of giving the plant a little splash every day, you soak the pot completely until water runs out the bottom, and then you do not touch it again until the top layer feels totally dry. This forces the roots to grow deep and strong, creating highly drought-resistant plants that can easily survive while you go away on a weekend vacation. The final piece of the lazy container puzzle is understanding the renewal pruning concept. Many people are terrified of pruning their potted shrubs and dwarf trees because they think they need an advanced degree in botany to make the right cuts. The myth of complicated structural pruning stops people from ever cutting their plants, which eventually leads to poor harvests. We use a shockingly simple method called the 1/3 rule. Think of your plant like a sports team. You need to rotate out the old, tired players to make room for fresh energy. At the end of the winter, while the plant is still asleep, you look at your potted berry bush or fruit tree. You identify the thickest, oldest, grayest branches. You take your clippers and cut exactly 1/3 of those old branches all the way down to the base. That is all you do. By removing the old wood, you open up the center of the pot to sunlight and fresh air. This triggers the roots to shoot up brand new, highly productive green branches in the spring. It is a foolproof system. Cut 1/3 of the old stuff every year, and your potted perennial will live and produce forever. And there you have it, the ultimate blueprint for the lazy gardener. By combining the right soil mix, smart watering tricks, and these 17 incredible edible perennials, you can completely eliminate the backbreaking work of traditional gardening. The most surprising turning point here is that by restricting these plants in containers, we actually force them to produce more food with less effort. You are no longer fighting against nature or battling weeds in the open ground. Instead, you have created a perfectly controlled, highly productive patio orchard that will feed you for decades. Putting in a little smart work today by setting up these pots will literally save you hundreds of hours of labor in the future. Imagine stepping outside your door next summer and harvesting fresh figs, blueberries, and asparagus without ever picking up a shovel. Thank you so much for watching. If you found these lazy container secrets helpful, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so we can keep making these guides for you. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 17 perennial container plants Are you going to add to your patio first? Let me know in the comments below.